there, Jessica here once again. Welcome back to GED On Language Arts. I'll be leading you through Chapter 6. If any time you feel like you need to pause the video, please feel free to do so. You can always return back to where you last left off in the video. This program was designed to follow along with the book. Therefore, if you're ready to conquer Chapter 6, let's go. Hopefully, I'm able to get you through this with flying colors. As a reminder, we'll be using the Kaplan GED Test Prep Plus 2020 book for this and all videos offered through the GED On platform. You can find links below to purchase the book at your local store or online. We'll be starting our sixth video by covering Unit 1, Reasoning Through Language Arts, Chapter 6, Writing About Text. In Chapter 6, we'll be covering lessons 1 through 6, starting on page 146 of the Kaplan book. Now let's begin with Lesson 1, Unpack the Writing Prompt. In the GED test, there will be a writing activity called Extended Response. For an example of an extended response, please go back to page 58. During this chapter, we'll focus on how to maximize your response within the time frame provided. The extended response activity involves reading a passage or two and creating a response in a Word document. In order to comply with the writing assignment, you will need to learn about evidence-based writing, which means that you'll be utilizing evidence and/or facts from the passages to support your claim. We also need to understand which argument or opinion does the writer want to invoke, which in turn will help you develop your own argument in response to a prompt or assignment. Now you may be asking yourself, what is a prompt? Well, let's learn more about what a writing prompt is. A writing prompt is a brief passage or text that provides a starting point for an essay, report, and/or a response. For example, write about your experience during quarantine during the COVID-19 pandemic. This prompt will be the beginning of your writing when composing a response. So then, how do we start writing a prompt? In order to do this, we need to think about unpacking the prompt. Let's think about it this way. When you come back from a trip, you unpack your suitcase by taking out your articles of clothing one by one and separating them accordingly, such as which ones need washing, hanging them up, and placing them in a drawer. In writing, it is the same thing. While writing a prompt, you need to take it apart or separate it and think, how are you going to bring it all together? Let's practice unpacking the prompt with our very first example found on page 146. Before reading the passages for example 1, let's read the cold writing prompt together. As it says, while the writer of passage A proposes the benefits of cleaning coal, the writer of passage B identifies drawbacks to this position. In your response, analyze both selections to determine which position is better supported. Use relevant and specific information from both selections to support your response. Type your response in the box. This task will take 45 minutes to complete. Now that we've read the prompt, let's go ahead and read the passages together. Passage A reads as, coal, the source of half the energy in the United States, has been the dirtiest of all fossil fuels because it creates harmful emissions when burned. Help is on the way with the development of new clean coal technologies that reduce coal's environmental impact. These new technologies that purify exhaust gases as coal burns and prevent the formation of harmful emissions in the first place. There's even gasification, which avoids burning coal altogether. Now moving on to passage B, it says, clean coal amounts to just an advertising slogan. Don't be fooled by claims about new technologies making coal a clean burning fuel. The hazards to our environment start well before that. Coal mining wastes huge amounts of water, 70 to 260 million gallons daily. Today's mining companies now use mountaintop removal instead of traditional mining to extract coal. 49 states have issued fish intake advisories due to high mercury concentration in the water, much of it due to coal-fired power plants. Now that we've read both passages, let's unpack the prompt. Please feel free to pause the video and go back to reading the prompt if you need to refresh. When you're ready, click play and we can unpack the prompt together. Now let's get started with unpacking the writing prompt and answering the following questions. The first question asks us, what is the writing assignment about? If we go back to the prompt, the first paragraph states that the writing assignment is about the different positions on clean coal. Question 2 asks, what does the prompt ask you to do? In the second paragraph of the prompt, it states to analyze both selections and determine which position is better supported. Question 3 asks, what are you being asked to include in your response? In the third paragraph of the prompt, it states to use relevant and specific information to support your response. Question 4 asks, are you being asked for your opinion on the topic? Based on the prompt, you are not being asked for your opinion on the topic. Question 5 asks, are you being asked to take a position about the writer's arguments? Yes, you are being asked to take a position about the writer's arguments and determining which writer made a stronger argument. Question 6 asks, where are you writing? How long do you have? You can find the answer to this on the fourth paragraph of the prompt, where it states that you are to type your response in the box and you will have 45 minutes to complete the writing task. Now that we have finished our first lesson, let's complete practice 1 found on page 147. At this time, please pause the video and read practice 1, writing prompt, found on page 147. Notice that there are no passages for this practice. When you're ready to restart, click play. Let's unpack the writing prompt. Question 1 asks, what is the topic of the writing prompt? While reading the prompt, the first paragraph talks about the safety of cell phones and how passage A and passage B differ in opinion. Therefore, the answer to question 1 is, the topic of the writing prompt is a pair of passages that discuss the safety of cell phones. Question 2 asks, what does the prompt ask you to do? Put this in the form of a question. The second paragraph explains what is your task for this assignment, which is, the writing prompt asks me, do I agree with passage A or the writer of passage B, and what information led me to that decision? At this time, please pause the video and complete questions 3 to 4. Click play when you're ready to continue. We are now moving along to lesson 2, identify writer's arguments and assumptions. Based on page 86, you learn about written arguments and the basic parts needed to compose a written argument. In the language arts GED test, you'll be asked to identify a writer's argument which consists of a conclusion or strong statement about a topic, which is supported by evidence based on facts, details, and experiences. Be mindful that a writer's argument will not always be visible within their writing, but they will make assumptions about the topic throughout the passage. Now let's take a look at our first example on page 148. We'll read it together and determine what is the writer's conclusion or argument and assumptions about the topic. Our first example for lesson 2 reads as, secondhand smoke is the smoke that comes either from the lighted end of a cigarette, pipe, or cigar, or from the exhalation of a smoker. Most people consider secondhand smoke to be less dangerous than the nicotine that a cigarette user intakes. However, the particles that come from the smoke of the lighted end of a cigarette, called side stream smoke, contain higher concentrations of carcinogens, which are chemicals that cause cancer. These particles can be breathed in easily by people around smokers, especially in enclosed areas. Therefore, all restaurants should ban smoking inside. Let's answer the following 3 questions. The first question asks, what is the writer's topic? Is it A, secondhand smoke and its effects, or B, the most common carcinogens? The writer's main topic is focused on secondhand smoke throughout the passage. Carcinogens is only mentioned in the third sentence. Therefore, the correct answer is A. Question 2 asks, what is the writer's conclusion about the topic? Is it A, side stream smoke contains high concentrations of carcinogens, or B, smoking should be banned inside restaurants? The writer presents the facts about secondhand smoking and concludes his writing by stating that restaurants should ban smoking. Therefore, the answer is B. Question 3 asks, which of the following is the writer's unstated assumption? Is it A, carcinogens only come from side stream smoke? Or B, restaurants should take steps to protect the health of their patrons? Although the writer did not state it directly in the passage, the writer wants the restaurants to protect their patrons, as secondhand smoke can be breathed easily by people, especially in enclosed areas. Therefore, the answer is B. At this time, let's practice identifying the writer's arguments and assumptions. You can find practice 2 on page 149. At this time, please pause the video and read practice 2, passage 1, found on page 149. When you're ready to restart, click play. Before answering the following questions, let's analyze passage 1. The passage focuses primarily on military service and the writer's argument for selective service for young adults and the effects that it will have by having young adults enroll in the military. The writer also addresses how the country will benefit from young adults completing 2 years of military service and the attitude that citizens will have towards mandating their youth into military service and the resentment they may feel. The writer concludes this passage by offering a solution that instead of putting time, effort, and funds into promoting military service, they should shift its focus to social problems to assist the poor or marginalized in the community. By analyzing the passage prior to answering questions, it helps you understand the writer's arguments and assumptions, which eases answering the questions. Let's now take a look at our first question. It asks, what is the writer's topic? By analyzing this passage beforehand, we already know that the topic is about mandatory military service. Question 2 asks, the writer's conclusion about the topic is, once again, we already know that the writer prefers that government focuses on social services to assist the needy rather than spend funds, time, and energy in mandating the youth to military service. At this time, please pause the video and complete questions 3 to 6. Click play when you're ready to continue. We are now moving on to Lesson 3, Develop a Thesis Statement. So far, we have learned about unpacking a prompt and identifying a writer's argument. These lessons have been preparing us for what our next lesson is, which is developing a thesis statement. A thesis statement is a statement in one sentence that expresses the main idea of a research paper or essay. For the sake of this lesson, we'll be focusing on writing a response to the writer's passages that we read in the examples and practices. Remember that a thesis statement is a response to the writer's passage, and your response will be defended by evidence written in the passage. Your thesis statement should not be an opinion. For example, think back to passage A and passage B from page 146 on cold selection. If you need to pause the video to look back at page 146 on cold selection, please feel free to do so. I will be here when you're ready to continue. Hey, you're back. Let's continue. Let's read the following statements and determine if they're either a thesis statement or an opinion. Remember, a thesis statement makes a claim using facts. An opinion is someone's personal views and feelings. Now let's go ahead and read statement 1. It says, I think that passage A is better than passage B because it does a good job explaining the new technologies and reminds us that coal is responsible for half of our electricity. This sounds more like an opinion because it states that what the reader likes instead of presenting the ideas the passage presents. Let's go ahead and read statement 2. It says, I think passage B makes a better argument because it backs up its conclusion with information about overuse of water, mountaintop removal, and potential mercury poisoning. This sounds like a thesis statement as it presents a claim and demonstrates that the claim will be backed up by specific support when it's written. Hopefully, this is helping put everything together in order to start planning your response, which we'll be doing later in the chapter. Now that we are more knowledgeable on how to develop a thesis statement, let's move on to practice 3, found on page 151. At this time, please pause the video and read practice 3, Advertising for Prescription Drugs on TV, found on page 151. When you're ready to restart, click play. That was a very interesting passage about prescription drugs and its advertising on television. Now let's answer the following 2 questions. Question 1 asks, what is the writer's argument about prescription drug advertising on TV? Throughout the passage, the writer focuses on prescription medications, advertising them on the television, and the negative effects it can have on its viewership. For this question, your response may vary, and that is okay. Here's an example of what your answer may look like. Prescription drug advertising on TV is harmful because it can lead patients to request or refuse medication for reasons that are not medically sound. Question 2 asks, write a thesis statement in response to the argument. State your position and indicate how you will support it. Remember, answers may vary, but here's an example. The author's argument against direct-to-consumer advertisement of prescription medication is unconvincing because it does not provide any statistical data about how drug advertisements have actually affected consumer behavior. At this time, please pause the video and complete questions 3 and 4. Click play when you're ready to continue. Now let's go ahead and cruise on to Lesson 4, Collect Supporting Evidence. Welcome back once again. Let's recap on what we have learned so far. We've learned about the writer's argument, how to unpack the prompt in order to answer extended responses in the GED test, and how to develop a thesis statement. We briefly mentioned using evidence and facts from the passages read to write your response to the writer's argument. But how do we do that? In this lesson, we're going to learn how to gather evidence while reading to use when writing our response. During the GED test, there are certain tools that are available to you while reading passages. There's an online highlighter you can use to mark some facts that you'll be using to write your response. You also have the option and using a digital write-on board and a erasable marker to take notes you can also use to write your response. Some of the items that you want to focus on while reading the writer's passage is to think back to your thesis statement and only gather evidence that's specific and relevant to your argument. Let's now practice gathering evidence in the following example. Here's our thesis statement as it reads, family time is a thing of the past because too many distractions interfere with conversation and other interactions. Keep your thesis in mind when we read the following passage on page 152 and either circle, highlight, underline, or take notes in your book. Let's read the following passage together. I know it sounds corny, but I miss the way my family was together when I was growing up. Even though mom and dad worked, we usually had breakfast together. Now I work the night shift and sleep in the morning, while my husband is too harried with getting the kids to eat and making their lunches to get a preview of their day. After school, our kids have part-time jobs, and everyone gets home at different times. Even though I have dinner ready before I leave at 8 p.m., someone's doing homework, someone's on the internet, and someone is texting friends that he or she saw an hour before. I can't remember the last time we all ate together and had a conversation. Even when I try to organize a movie night, it seems that one of us has social or work obligations. We all love each other, but it is hard to have what we can call family time. Thank goodness for holidays and vacations when we can slow down and enjoy each other. Let's take a look at our thesis statement again, as it says, family time is a thing of the past because too many distractions interfere with conversation and other interactions. To summarize the passage we read, there are multiple activities that the writer engaged in which made it difficult for this writer's family to enjoy family time. During the early morning, they are rushing to prepare the children for school or to go to work, which some of us can relate. And in the evening, the children engage in different extracurricular activities, again making it impossible to have family time. Now let's think about some evidence statements that we can utilize to support our claim or thesis. By gathering these evidence statements, we're ready to start writing. The evidence statements for this passage would be, breakfast time is hectic and one parent is asleep. After school, people are working or engaged in distractions. Family members don't eat dinner together. Not everyone is available for common activities like movie night. It's your turn to practice. Thus, let's go to practice 4 found on page 153. At this time, please pause the video and read the prompt, drinking age. Read the selection, case for keeping the minimum drinking age at 21, and read the writer's conclusion. When you're ready to restart, click play. Let's read the writer's conclusion. The conclusion is that despite some reasons for lowering the legal drinking age, it should remain at 21. Let's now take a look at question 1. Question 1 asks us to list 3 pieces of evidence used in the passage to support the conclusion. A says, the passage states that alcohol is particularly harmful to parts of the brain that grow later in life. B says, another fact from the passage is that alcohol causes long-term damage to the heart and liver. C says, in support of this position, the text further says that the United Kingdom allows younger individuals to drink and also has high rates of alcohol-related death. At this time, please pause the video and complete questions 2 and 3 and click play to continue. We're now continuing to Lesson 5, Plan Your Response. During the GED test, you will have 45 minutes to answer the extended response activity. You're probably thinking that is a long time, but remember that there are several steps that need to be taken prior to actually start to write your response. A recommendation that is given to maximize your response and use of time during this activity are the following. Take 10 minutes to plan, 25 minutes to draft your response, and 10 minutes to revise. In this lesson, we'll learn and practice how to plan your response. We already have our thesis and evidence to support our claim. Now, where do we start? During this lesson, we'll focus on the planning part. In the planning process, we already know how to preview the prompt because we want to be aware of what our assignment will be. Additionally, we know about reading the passages and how to have access to certain tools like the highlighter and the write-on board to use to write your thesis statement and plan your response by having either an outline or an idea map. I know in your mind you're thinking, an outline or idea map from a response? Huh? What is that? You didn't think I was going to leave you hanging, right? An outline depicts each main topic using a system of numbers and letters, which is a progression of your main topic. You're probably looking at this outline thinking, what do I do? How do I use this? I'm so confused. Don't worry. We'll break it down together. Let's break this up and apply it to something meaningful to us. The page title or main idea can be the advantages of obtaining a GED diploma. Section 1 or A will focus on the first reason as to why we should earn a GED, and this can be better job opportunities. And Section 2 or B will focus on another reason to earn your GED, being a role model to the young adults in your life. And finally, Section 3 or C will focus on the last reason to have the GED diploma, and this can be path to college. Think about each section as a paragraph in your writing assignment. Therefore, Section 4 or D will bring your topic and reasons together and the conclusion about your topic or thesis. You can use this outline to bring together your response, or you may opt to use an idea map. The idea map is similar to an outline, only we use it differently. If you are a visual learner, this is probably the best method for you to use. Think about it as being a spider. The body of the spider is your main idea / thesis, and the legs on the spider is your reason, your evidence to support your thesis statement. You may use either tool to help with your response during the GED test. Now that we've learned 2 different methods to plan our writing, let's practice these principles with practice 5 on page 156. At this time, please pause the video and read practice 5 on family pets, found on page 156, and answer questions 1 and 3. You will need to answer the questions prior to moving on. Now that you completed questions 1 and 3, let's look at question 3 more closely. Question 3 asks you to make an idea map of your response to the passage and to use facts and evidence from the passage read. The following map is only an example of what yours may look like. Your idea map may vary. The thesis statement is in the middle or body of the idea map. From there are 4 categories or reasons to invest on pets. Under those categories, there are subcategories explaining the reasons or evidence for this category. For example, the category referring to pets relieving stress has supporting evidence that states that nothing can replace petting an affectionate dog or cat. You can notice this trend with all categories in the idea map. Don't get rid of your map just yet. You'll be using it in Lesson 6. At this time, you can pause the video and complete question 2, making an outline for response, and clicking play when you're ready to continue. We are now continuing on to Lesson 6, Draft Your Response. Now it's time to start writing and drafting your response. Don't be nervous. You have learned valuable information that will get you through this section. Remember to use your thesis statement when you begin because you want the reader to know immediately what is your claim. Refer to your outline or your idea map to write the body, and remember to use supporting evidence from the writer's passage. Be sure to include some personal experiences about your thesis. Only if you have some. Please don't make them up. While drafting the response, always refer to the thesis to ensure they don't deviate from the thesis statement. The last paragraph to the draft will be the conclusion, where the thesis statement will be restated. Utilize different wording, avoid repetition. This is a simplified explanation to keep in mind while drafting your response. The response has to be written in essay format. An essay is composed of several paragraphs depending on the type of paper that you're writing. A research paper will consist of multiple paragraphs and pages. But for the purpose of this video, the essay will consist of 3 to 5 paragraphs. The first paragraph will be the introduction. The body will be 2 to 3 paragraphs based on your thesis and supporting evidence. And the conclusion will be your last paragraph. Now let's review the outline from Planning on Friends and Acquaintances from page 155 to drafted writing or extended response. As you can see, we have the Planning on Friends and Acquaintances outline from page 155 to draft a writing or extended response. The thesis statement states, people need both close friends and acquaintances because they meet our social needs in different ways. The outline has been pre-edited and is ready for you to write a response in an essay format. Notice that the introduction paragraph states the thesis claim in the first sentence of the paragraph. Also, during this paragraph, the writer informs the reader about the supporting evidence that will be used to support the claim or thesis statement, the special bond with close friends, the needs that are fulfilled by acquaintances, and how equally important these needs are met from acquaintances. Section 1 of the outline focuses on the benefits of close friends, which is the first sentence of the paragraph. The paragraph is informing the reader about the benefits of having close friends, such as loyalty, support, and being yourself, among other things. Notice that the writer added a personal experience with a relationship with a close friend. The next body paragraph will consist of the benefits of acquaintances. For time purposes, we will go directly to the conclusion. In the conclusion, the writer reinstates the thesis statement in different wording. As it states in the first sentence of the conclusion, so while it is important to have close friends, it's really rewarding to have a wide circle of acquaintances as well. Now it's your turn to practice. Go to practice 6.1 on page 159. At this time, please pause the video and refer to the prompt found on page 156 on family pets. Afterwards, please compose an introduction and concluding statement. When you're ready to restart, click play. Please take your time. There's no rush for this exercise, as I want you to fully understand how to write a response to pass the GED. Welcome back. How was it? Don't worry if you need additional time to review or additional practice. Remember, this platform is meant to be worked on at your own pace. Let's review the introduction and concluding statement. The following statements are examples, and answers may vary. Our sample introduction sentence states, pet ownership is a major burden, and the time and money people invest in pets would be better spent elsewhere. The author of the passage says that keeping a pet is not worth the trouble, but he fails to consider all of the many benefits of pet ownership. Now let's look at a sample concluding statement. As it states, and so when all is taken into consideration, the conclusion is clear. The cost of a pet far outweighs the benefit. Don't let the long list of difficulties listed by the author scare you away, because a pet can be a friend to you and your children, one whose value can't be measured against time and money. At this time, you may pause the video and complete practice 6.2 and 6.3. Click play when you're ready to continue. Remember, the more practice you have, the more prepared you'll be for the GED extended response section. Practice makes perfect. Up next is our very last lesson, lesson 7, revise and edit your response. Are you still there? Good. I thought I had lost you. We're at the last leg of the race. Yay! Remember to take 10 minutes to review and edit your response. Reread the thesis and your response to ensure that they are relatable and it supports your claim. Utilize both the revision questions and editing questions I'll be showing you shortly so you can have a top-notch response. You're not only being graded on your response, but also the content and grammar. We're now going to be looking at a list of revision questions to ask yourself. 1. Is your thesis statement in the introduction paragraph? 2. Does each subsequent paragraph has its own topic? 3. Did you include evidence to support your topic? 4. Is your argument valid? 5. Does it flow? Is it easy to understand? 6. Are there any sentence fragments or compound sentences? 7. Are you content with your word choice? 8. Does your concluding paragraph restate your thesis? The following questions were made to ensure that you find any grammatical errors and correct them before submitting your response. Let's review the following questions together. 1. Are all the sentences complete? 2. Are there any run-ons or common splices that should be corrected? 3. Are all lists parallel in structure? 4. Are nouns and pronouns used correctly? 5. Does the subject of each sentence match the verb? 6. Is the punctuation correct? 7. Is capitalization used correctly? 8. Are all words correctly spelled? 9. Are there any inappropriate word choices? Now that we have covered how to revise and edit your response, let's move on to practice 7.1 found on page 165. At this time, please pause the video and read, edit, and review question A found on page 165. When you're ready to restart, click play. As you can see, we have the revised response for question A. We've crossed out words within the response, including new words for the response, and added the paragraph symbol to start a new paragraph. You should have similar, almost the same edits for this question. At this time, you may pause the video to complete practice 7.1, B through C, and 7.2. Click play when you're ready to continue. We have finally completed Chapter 6. Excellent job, everyone! Please keep going. The next video will cover Unit 1, Reasoning Through Language Arts, Chapter 7, Polishing Your Writing, and Chapter 8, Using Grammar Correctly. Hope to see you in our next two chapters. Best of luck!